Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's well and keeping as safe as you can from the coronavirus. It's a real story, and it's strange times we're living in. So I hope everybody is keeping healthy out there. In Britain, we're supposed to wash our hands and sing "Happy Birthday" because apparently that's the length of time you need to protect yourself from this. So who knows what's right and what's wrong? But we know something is happening, and unlike the people at Spiked magazine, we're gonna get into all these people. I haven't done a one-on-one, just kind of riffing to you guys video for a while. But as many of you know, Comedy Unleashed have decided that I was a bit unleashed for Comedy Unleashed because the enemy's supposed to be out there. The enemy is never within your own immediate milieu. And I just want to say one of the reasons I haven't made a video in a while too is because I think at the beginning of February, I decided to do an audiobook recording of Milton's Paradise Lost, all 12 books with sound effects. That is hopefully going to come your way. I'm going to make that available for everybody. It's going to be a 14-hour video possibly, because I don't think there's been a definitive reading of it. And it was also a protest, kind of implicit protest against this woke, anti-woke bullshit. And as many of you know, I'm embarrassed to even use those terms. The greatest thinkers of our age are fighting back against political correctness, which is another stupid term, but they've decided to use. We're anti-woke. Woke, red-pilled, psych, red-pilled, LOL. I mean, it's just fucking retardation. So, fuck the lot of you. I'm going to sit down with this copy of Paradise Lost here, and I'm going to read Milton in a way that, if I may say so myself, that even the BBC didn't do in 2005. They just sort of man's first disobedience, let's use the posh accent and never really indicate what's going on. I mean, Milton is very, very clear. Satan turns into a dragon at one point in the lake of fire and flies off to a hill. But that's for down the road. That'll be about 10 months. I've got 3 books in the can right now, and I'm working on it every day. But it was a protest to this shit because, as you know, some of you might know, Comedy Unleashed. There's so much I have to say. I don't even know where to start. And I almost want to start with an apology. And here's the apology. I guess I can't believe I'm saying this. I used to always say, never apologize. And I can only blame naivete. Because I don't like political correctness, and I still don't to this day. I don't believe in. I'm never going to believe in don't say that. And there are certain subjects that don't belong on it. But the thing is, and I keep hitting this lately, is that I only was thinking of me. And the last Battle of Ideas panel I did, it was 2018, 2017. And this was before I realized that these people in this anti-woke movement, they don't have principles. They don't actually stand for anything. They're just about mischief and endless debate. And because it's a thing that's not quite right and it's not quite left, it's just this real confusing middle ground of people who just like to debate the indefensible for the fuck of it, I guess to show off their academic wanking arms. I don't know. But anyway, I'll get into many specifics. I guess I want to make sure I go chronologically, and I want to make sure that everybody knows that I, like everybody else, am concerned about the coronavirus, and there's part of me that's wondering, who gives a shit about this at the end of the day? So a night that calls itself the anti-censorship night censored its most outspoken and daring comedian. Does anybody? But then again, I think maybe people are inbound and they want something to take their minds off it. So who knows? I mean, this is what it is, and maybe you've dealt with people like this. I don't know. But what I was going to apologize in terms of naivete is I don't like political correctness. I don't like the tisk mentality. I've had issues with the left for a long time because I used to be in inner city education, and I did think there were a lot of liberal policies I think that were kind of enslaving people mentally. It had a kind of bigotry of low expectations to them when it came to students, especially in the inner cities. These supposedly liberal people were spouting stuff that was it was so negative. It was broken homes, and it's just a constant reminder to these kids, like, stay where you are. And that's the kind of conservative I always at least hope to be, as somebody who believes that you're not stuck by anything. You're not, I was born in a small Midwestern town, and there was a lot of bigotry, and and there were smart people out there, and there was dumb people out there, and if I didn't have this belief in myself as an individual, which to me is what old school conservatism means. It means the individual is above the community. Because, you want to use a term? It's a snowflake. No two snowflakes are alike. Before that word got co-opted, there's a lot of sensitive snowflakey people. Before that word became politicized, when I was growing up, I remember the teacher telling our old little country schoolhouse out there in Missouri, they say no two snowflakes are alike. And when I was a kid, I thought that was fucking cool. And I would always think of that. Yeah, no two snowflakes are alike. You know, there'll never be another David Bowie. You know, that's how I tried to live my life. You know, and I'm not sure I'm going with it, but that's my version of. So I butted heads in Harlem in New York when I was teaching there, and of course when I was living in San Francisco, 9 years out there, just hearing the worst shit in the world about Israel and America and people where I come from. You know, when I moved to San Francisco, it was like the lies that were told about the Midwest. You know, there were bigots out there, but there were also good, hardworking people that didn't have any bigotry, and you know, it was just what it was a blanket prejudice. You know, which is the sort of stuff that I react against. But you know, against Brexit voters, you know, they're all working class, you know, football hooligans and stuff. You know, that I react against. Like somebody's taking a big broad brush. Well, who would have thought 2 or 3 years after this Comedy Unleashed project got started by Andy Shaw and Andrew Doyle, that you would get to a night, because like a lot of people who for years have been fighting against political correctness, the naivete was the assumption that we've gotten over this. That this is done. That, you know, I know you keep banging on about racism, and it's, you know, it's over now. Like, let's rock and roll again. You know, do we have to keep blah 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 about the racism? And I think that was, for myself, I think that was a, you know, kind of a natural assumption to make, because there was a lot of that being pumped in. You know, I went to university. I'm a working class guy that went to university, and I always say that I went there at the right time. It was kind of evenly split. It was a Missouri university, but they were just starting to go the kind of multicultural. Let's talk about the feelings and the emotion shit. And then you still had these old school professors who were actually teaching Dryden and Swift, and I was very lucky to have that. And I really cherished that because it cost me to go to university, and I wanted something out of it. You know, I wanted an education and a knowledge about a subject that interested me in depth. You know, and who would have thought? 3 years after this Comedy Unleashed project got started, where a lot of us were asked to do it, because obviously I got to this thing in England where you want politically correct, you go to Will Franken, and I got to a point where, because I had really insulted the quality of comedy, which I took very personally. Do you know what it's like for somebody in my milieu? And again, we go back to my version of conservatism, the individual. I'm in a small town in Missouri of a population of 19,000 in the middle of fucking nowhere in America, far separated from either coast. And the young ones in Monty Python comes on and strikes a chord with me. And England becomes, in my mind, a place where when you're tired of the ordinary, mundane, you got church down the road and convenience store. See the rain today? Yeah, that was a place. England was a place to go where the most unique, brilliant, psychedelic, revolutionary, rebellious form of comedy was taking place, and this was a lifelong fantasy for me. And you know, and I was kind of going against that principle. Like, you know, you can't, when it came to PC culture, you can't put any templates on the subconscious. That's not the way art works. Art just comes out. Satire, as a satirist, just comes out. And 3 years later, because so these people were the only people giving me a gig for a while, because I had insulted the quality of comedy more than my things that I'd said about left-wing politics or how much I disagree with left-wing politics. The thing that really has fucked me up in my career are mediocre comedians and bookers who don't know the difference between mediocrity and something different. And this goes for our whole culture, right? To me, this explains music and everything. This slow degradation of quality. You know, and that's what I did. I started to insult, like, what's happening? Why are you guys in this country doing what was done in America in the 80s? You take the mic off the stand. It's like, yeah, it's like the train's here. What's going on with the trains here? It's like, this is the land. Maybe, you know, and we do this. We put things on pedestals, you know, and we want them to be like they were. But this country produced really great satire. And Comedy Unleashed came along, and they gave me gigs because I'm wild, crazy Will, and I say what it is, you know. And here's the thing: as you know from the Greta clip, I don't believe in the climate change thing, and I especially don't believe in the worship of a child by adult institutions. I think this is, you know, as part of the mental insanity of our culture, you know. But 3 years later, bearing in mind everything that I said about my version of the individual over the community, my old school definition of what it means to be a conservative, and how, you know, minority communities should not be shackled and by minority communities, I also mean working class white people like myself, should not be shackled by the milieu that they're born into, right? They should be encouraged to think for themselves, to break out of the box, whatever. Not if they want to stay there, that's fine. But you shouldn't be shackled. Like I have to. This is where I am for the rest of my life, right? 3 years later, they book Toby Young. And if you go back in these videos, if you're in America, you might not know who he is, and I don't fucking blame you. They booked Toby Young, who was the associate editor of The Spectator. Now, first off, let's get to the reason why they booked Toby. They booked Toby Young because those fuckers write for him, right? These anti-woke comedians write columns for The Spectator because they're not just really cutting-edge anti-woke comedians that are pushing back against the PC climate. They're also deep thinkers, right? And they hang out with people like Claire Fox in the Battle of Ideas, and they write columns too. They can juggle and they can eat swords, And really, the truth about this is, if anybody wants to look deep within their soul, the truth is they're shit comedians and they're shit journalists. But we live in a culture now where everybody thinks they can and should do whatever the fuck they want, regardless of the talent. If you've got the talent, you should do it. But these are not good. These are not good journalists, right? We know they're not good journalists because they have their agenda, right? We know Comedy Unleashed had its agenda, and I'll get into that in a bit. And I'm glad to see I've only done 11 minutes right now because I'm always afraid I'll just get stuck and not finish. I have so much to say on this topic, and the thing is, I knew this day was going to come. I didn't know it in the beginning. They booked me in the beginning, and I thought, thank fuck somebody has given me a stage. That somebody understands I'm not really a bad person. I had reasons for what I did. I am a satirist. It does upset people, but that as I saw it was my job. So initially I thought I was grateful, and then as the years went on. Not as the year, first there was the Andrew Doyle thing. Let's start with Andrew Doyle. Andrew Doyle is the co-booker of that, and he sent me a little bitchy text last night at about 11 p.m. out of nowhere, and he says, "Why are you being so hostile to me? This is big, bad, brave, pushing back against the authoritarian culture of the woke left. One of the most sensitive, cowardly people I have ever known." And here's the truth: I gave him a pass. In 2016, when I did my awards at the Edinburgh Fringe, where I satirized what I saw as the state of comedy and the exploitation of the Fringe, give us some money and here's a poster and everybody's got a fucking stage, which is, I don't know how the fuck that is good for. It was good for comedy when it was the Fringe, when it was Peter Cook and Dudley Moore coming up and actually being beyond the Fringe. But we have long since passed that place, and now it's just like, here's some more bullshit, buy your TV license, And, Andrew Doyle was a whisperer. That's what he did. If I got to sum him up in one word, he's a whisperer, right? I love what you did. Don't tell anybody. Right? That was it. That's it, right? I love what you do. Don't tell anybody. It's crazy, isn't it? He would call me every time there was a stupid story like Count fucking Dankula, a guy who had nothing else to do with this. He's not going to read Paradise Lost, or at least make the attempt. It could be, this thing could go tits up, but at least I'm making a fucking attempt. This fucking asshole took a fucking dog and taught it, gas the Jews, right? Another example of Comedy Unleashed's complete lack of fucking principles. Give him a stage. Right? Now, there's such a thing called a pendulum, right? Should the guy go to jail? No. Should he get a spot on a fucking comedy stage? This is what those fucks do. This is what they did. And when it comes out of their own fucking mouth, like it has done over the last 2 weeks, which hopefully I know I'm going to get to because I'm doing well on time. When it comes out of their mouth, they don't actually fucking believe in anything. They believe that if somebody got in trouble with their speech, good enough for us. So if you notice in the video before this, what I open up with is I say, under that principle, next week you can come see me here with coronavirus. You can come see me with Joseph Mengele, right? This is not what the fuck I thought was going to happen, and I know, I should have known. I didn't know. I was one of those people who was pushing back against PC culture, thinking, yeah, those people, this is a non-story, right? But the racists are different, right? Toby Young does this. This is the kind of voodoo shit that I should stick with Andrew Doyle. I don't know what it is. Slightly different. Let's go to Toby Young for a second because I spent a lot of time on Toby Young in terms of content with what I put up. So some of you who don't know him, this is a journalist. All I knew about him, I didn't know about him until my girlfriend told me about him. Right? He's one of these fixtures out here in England that the academic types, the political types would know the name. All I heard was that he supported grammar schools, which, from what I understood about the grammar school system and its downplaying in the UK, I happen to think, from what I understood of grammar schools, I thought that would be better for education. That's all I knew at the time. As I've gotten to know him through the Comedy Unleashed people, because he came to a show in Manchester that Comedy Unleashed had put on, and then they invited him to do a set at Comedy Unleashed. And the more I got to know, this is a man who goes on Twitter. His whole fucking life is on Twitter, and it's booby jokes and titties, and I'd like to come, and I need to give her a good throbbing, right? This is a. Can you understand what it's like to have to be the first one in your family that goes to university? And all you can go to a Southwest Missouri State University, and you have to make some sacrifices to do it. And this motherfucker, this guy named look him up if you're in America, you don't know who this is. This is the kind of shit that I'm fighting back against now, right? This is the thing I'm on about now, because here's the thing, I didn't think these people existed. I admit I didn't think they existed. I thought we had grown past this shit. So here's a puerile guy who does, and Tanny, I want to come on, and then if he gets in trouble for it, which really getting in trouble with it is just, somebody complains. That's it. One of the lines that I didn't do, which I forgot to do on Tuesday night, was when his wife says, who are you fighting on Twitter? The other people on Twitter, right? This is just, this social media thing is just, if you don't like what you're getting on social media, get the fuck off. I've not had Twitter for over a year, right? But it gets even worse. It gets even worse. Andrew Sabisky, this is a recent story. Andrew Sabisky was a guy who got into number 10 in some advisory capacity, who was spouting eugenics, or who had a history of spouting eugenic stuff about embryonic selection and things like that. Now, as a conservative, and more than that, as a conservative who believes in God, and that God does not enslave anybody, right? That slavery, right? And again, I need to remind people here that the Civil War in America was largely a Christian movement, and it came over a debate about, we've been reading the Bible and we've been studying the Bible, and we happen to believe, and I've said before that atheists wouldn't have freed the slaves, because when you get to atheism, you get to cold, stupid materialism. That doesn't really, okay, well, slaves save money, like that. But a conservative viewpoint, a conservative Christian viewpoint would say every individual has worth, right? Now, this is fucking ancient history. But this Toby Young, when this Sabisky guy, when they found these eugenics comments, I went on Facebook for the first time in ages, and I said, apparently Comedy Unleashed's principle, or lack thereof, what they call a principle, is to give anybody who's been in trouble for their speech a stage. I'm sure we can expect to see Andrew Sabisky down here. I said that as a joke, and then, as it turned out, Toby Young wrote a piece. I'm not defending Sabisky. I'm just saying let's look at what he said, right? Well, he said eugenics. He said eugenic stuff. He said things about embryonic selection. He said things. He compared the women's Olympics were equivalent to the Paralympics. That being a woman is disabled. And you see shit like that, and you almost, for somebody who's been fighting against political correctness for 20 years, you almost wonder if the politically correct people might have it right sometimes. Because the racist that we saw in my youth, this is Toby Young. Now, Toby Young got a spot at Comedy Unleashed. And again, because why? Because he publishes the columns that they write. He's a fucking aging, whatever he was, a provocateur of no intelligence and absolutely no morality. And they give him a stage time. Now, my first gig was in front of 6 friends of mine in Missouri. Most comedians, their first gig is at a fucking open mic. They go down and they sign their name up and they hope they get 5 minutes of stage time just to try it. Because and those motherfuckers talk about a free and open night. This is what's called nepotism. This is what fucks up every fucking entertainment industry. But in their case, it's worse. And it will fall on their head the worse. Because they have puffed themselves up and said, you know what, for a long time, comedy's been shit and we're the answer. No, you're not. You put on Konstantin Kisin, a man who said he would never book me, and then you play this fucking friend card with me. I know I'm going all over the map here, but let me tell you about the racist when I grew up. When I grew up, the racist, they'd say really stupid shit. And they say, I want to tell you something. You take a white man and put a black man there, and he get his welfare check. That was it. They would just say it on the porch. And then again, I defended Missouri because they weren't all like that. And it was a gross exaggeration to say that everybody from Missouri was like that. And that's why I pushed back against that. But there were people like that. But we made fun of them. I had a little motley group of friends. And one of my friends' name was Terry Hall. And we were different in that he was black. He was one of the first people I ever got stoned with. And got stoned a lot with. We were always at his house. We were always driving around in his shitty little silver hatchback. And he always had the same fucking Jimi Hendrix tape, and he played Crosstown Traffic over and over and over again. And we would get so stoned, and I was convinced that Jimi Hendrix was saying horsefly, horsefly. And we would laugh about it. Early days of marijuana, you just laugh like that. Now, the fact that Terry was black and gay and living in Missouri, and both his parents were very affluent doctors, that was the complete polar opposite of me. And so one of the reasons I resented a lot of what I was hearing from the multicultural people and the academic people was that they were driving. We didn't need them. We never needed these professors to go like, well, the problem with white privilege, because we just fucking got along, right? That's called organic, natural friendships, right? These things happen, and that's why I push back against those motherfuckers. And we had Bonnie Pettis. She was a libertarian lesbian. I wonder if she's still a libertarian now. That's when I first heard about libertarian. But Bonnie and I also shared a love for Beethoven. And she was a lesbian who would go to the most redneck person in the bar and start a fight with them. Because that was her definition of funny. It was a little bit weird, but she would start a fight under the premise that a man can never hit a woman. And therefore she could say whatever she wanted. But we didn't need these fucking people. Lesbians are human too, and blacks, we didn't need them. It was snobbery, right? It was anti-working class snobbery, right? Those were the and we fought back about it. We laughed about them and we joked about them, and we either did it to their face or we made fun of them, like just getting stoned, hanging out about the idiot racist down the road or whatever. I want to keep the slide up. We ridiculed them and we satirized them. So when I got to San Francisco years later, I didn't see those people anymore. In fact, I didn't see them by the time I left Missouri. I just didn't see them. Not my friends. I'm talking about those kind of, just sitting on a porch bigots. I didn't see them anymore. I saw snobs. I saw snobs that couched their anti-Semitism in their hatred of Israel. I saw I saw things like the Folsom Street Fair where little children are walking with their mothers out in the daylight, and men are getting spanked on the ass in leather chaps in the name of getting it out there, right? I'm not really get everything out there, right? Which is the comedy Unleashed principle or lack thereof. Get it all out there. Claire Fox at the Battle of Ideas. Of course I'm not defending child porn, but I don't want the government to restrict child porn on the internet. Get your story straight, sister. Get your fucking story straight. Now, why did I bring up the Battle of Ideas? Because a lot of the Battle of Ideas people come out to Comedy Unleashed because that's who they marketed to, right? I only found this out about a month ago. I called one of the other regular performers there, and apparently that show was never ever marketed to anybody on the left. They went right for I'm on YouTube right now, but they went right for the Sargon of Akkad people and the Paul Joseph Watson and whatever fucking whack job anti-Israel fucking, well, let's look at eugenics. That's who they fucking marketed to. And you start to get these people show up at this fucking show, and I just kept thinking Scientologist by the end. This is a fucking cult. Peter Hitchens, he's been, well, I'm going to get to him in a bit. Let me get back to the racist of today, or the racists that I've seen, right? Because racism has no place in conservatism, not at all. Racism denies the individual his individuality, and I fucking know that the individual is important to me because I have lived my life like an individual. I have gone on stage at Comedy Unleashed and said, you got a fucking problem here, and I fucking don't like it. And we're going to talk about real satire last night. What happened last night when Andrew Doyle said, I'm doing a character, Will. It's a character. This is a character. To attend is a character. It's a character. I do characters too, but I have a reason for doing characters. And if you see my Brexit bit, where they bribe a working class guy with a case of beer to say the word immigrant. I wrote that for a reason. Yeah, I used characters in there, but the reason that I wrote it was because I didn't like the way Brexit voters, working class, especially Brexit voters, were being portrayed at the time by the media. That's why I wrote the bit. Now, Andrew Doyle, it's just a character. This is a character. It's a character. It's a character. So what do you believe? I was on the phone with this motherfucker because I engaged, right? Right. I know you can't. I'm learning that you can't talk to these people. You can't pin them down on any moral principle. But I had him on the phone last night and said, why did you book Toby Young? Why? Did it have anything to do with him being associate editor of The Spectator? Because you couldn't pin him down. He's not a eugenicist. So why? Okay, so if he's not a eugenicist, why do we need to debate eugenics in the marketplace of ideas? Well, I disagreed with him on that, but he's not a eugenicist because he told me he wasn't. He told you he wasn't a eugenicist. So why did he write in 2018 about how poor classes intelligence can be improved by embryonic selection? Do you think that he might have been lying to you? And why not? Because any man who spends his time, any married man who spends his time tweeting titty titty, look at the cleavage, look at the tit tit tit, or let's debate eugenics in the marketplace of ideas. It wouldn't occur to you, Andrew Doyle, the great thinker who went to Oxford, right? Who's built a career out of first an Alan Partridge knockoff. In the case of Jonathan Pye, a very skilled exercise in straddling a fence. What does Jonathan Pye think, right? And why the fuck would you rant to a cameraman? Wouldn't you have ranted to him about the story on the way to the fucking shoot anyway? It didn't even make sense logically. I called him Jonathan Pye come lately, and even when he came, he had nothing to say. But then Titania McGrath, this whole thing, which I've only read just a handful of tweets. But what was The Spectator was writing wonderful columns about how brilliant this was. And my first reaction was, my God, the Spectators surely seems to have lost their minds as old school conservatives. It seems to be like the thing now is not quality, is it? It's about applauding, who'd have thought it? A Twitter account is not even the person doing the tweeting. Oh my God, what's that called again? Jonathan Swift? I gotta look that up. Who's doing it? But who is it? This is fucking rag week bullshit. It's frat boy, it's college frat boy with a lock. Because Andrew was a coward from the day I knew him. And it didn't bother me that he was a coward because I got to be the brave man. This is 2016. I got to be the brave man. And I didn't mind the odd coward. And I wasn't going to single him out either. I thought, I don't need to go around and say Andrew Doyle was a coward. I got to be the brave man and he's the coward. And I always thought it would really suck to be a coward. Who wants to be a coward? I don't know how you live with yourself if you're a coward. I should have said something. Why didn't I say something? I should have said something. Oh, well, cocaine, or whatever his tipple is, right? Who would have thought it? I didn't say anything at the time. And I kept my mouth shut for a few good years, to be honest with you, to be fair with you. But I started to ask him questions along the way, and I started to say, why would you book that guy? If you're such a good friend of mine, why would you book the guy Konstantin Kissin, who said that he would never book me, and then 1 month later got a safe space agreement that he didn't sign, and then he changed the reason to a 2 a.m. offset? Why would you book him? Are you not just a person who's got this kind of movement going on, and you want to put a bunch of contradictory faces up there? Like, one of the things I found insulting is the fact they have my face on their website. And I'm the kind of person, I don't care about I know I got a poster behind me, but I don't actually care about I don't say, who's using my photo? I don't give a fuck. It's the internet day. Anybody can take a photo and do anything with it. I'm sure Andrew Doyle his next big thing will take my face and put evil eyes in there and say, this is the real Will Franken, at real Will Franken, because that's what he does. Oxford boy lives on Twitter. Toby Young, Oxford and Cambridge boy, lives on Twitter. Ho, 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 the tanks are at Tiananmen Square, and we're fighting for freedom. Fuck you. You are so full of shit. The left wing, and I'm going to apologize. The left wing has never, ever tried to control me or to muzzle me the way that I experience with these fuckers. Ever. They have a narrative for that fucking night. And it became very fucking apparent. So I did the Greta Thunberg thing because I don't believe in the Greta Thunberg worship. That's why I did it. I did the trans thing because I think the trans thing, I think it's a mental disorder. I do. I think it's just, you go through now I'm a woman. It's not real. It's a made up thing, right? That's why I did it. I didn't do it to cause confusion. And what does he really think? I did it because I believed in it. And then I started to do other stuff because I believed in it. Like, have you ever noticed Brendan O'Neill, the chief editor of Spiked, never has a fucking opinion about anything? Have you noticed the Battle of Ideas charge £100 for people to debate whether or not female genital mutilation is good or bad? Have you noticed these things? And does anybody give a shit? I'm going to turn on the overhead light. Hang tight 1 second. I'm sorry I'm not so technically savvy. If I was, Andrew Doyle or Constantine Kissin, I'm sure I would have figured out a way to invest part of my hedge fund management team into getting me a nice studio with good lighting. I'm just a fucking guy who tells the truth because I don't give a shit. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And when you talk to one of these people, so what I feel like I should probably give you some specifics. So I always go, if anybody cares, again, we got coronavirus going on, so who knows? But I'm just fucking sad about. I want to bring these fuckers. I want to expose these people because back again, so that was the racist I grew up with. Don't damn people on the porch just saying some shit. I didn't know there'd be this new type of racist, which they wear suits and they go to places like Oxford and Cambridge. And here's the thing: they probably didn't make any friends. This is my theory. People don't like them because they're stupid. Who wants to hang out with stupid people? And I'm not talking about in terms of intelligence or college degrees or anything. I'm talking about people who just because they have no morality, they don't stand for anything. They have no principle. They're stupid. There's nothing there. There's nothing anchoring them to anything in terms of belief. How about if I hold it like that? God, that's be creepy, isn't it? The racists of today, they wear suits. And they go to conference. They have think tanks, and they say things. And while I was reading, according to Stefan Molyneux, there was a great video. I shared you the link. Did you get the link? Yeah, there's a link. It's Stefan Molyneux. It's the IQ equivalent with genetic factors. Have you read Toby Young? Toby Young's got a great piece on was embryonic selection to actually improve the intelligence in working class communities. So those are the racists of today. They're either racist or they're just empty. See, the thing is, with that lot, with the Battle of Ideas, you don't know. You don't know what the Battle of Ideas lot, and I guess now the Spiked lot and the Spectator lot and the Comedy Unleashed lot. You don't know. You don't know what the night's about. So I did the Greta thing, and I didn't want to do the Greta thing anymore because I'd done the Greta thing, right? You do it, and then there's other topics. So I started to do, Spiked, and the reason I was doing this was because many people in that audience particularly know about these people, right? And outside of that, but particularly they're concentrated. Once a month, they're concentrated. The Battle of Ideas people, hey, Will, I wrote a play on the anti-woke thing, right? That lot, this whole people who are just, 20 fucking years. 20 years ago, you didn't have an opinion about anything, but now you're part of this great movement. I saw a woman today who says we shouldn't take down the statues, but a woman disagreed with her. The other woman's the snowflake, right? Or how about this fucking asshole? Helen Dale. Helen Dale writes for, I believe, The Spectator. I'm not going to do a Joe Rogan. I don't know it. I saw Joe Rogan for the first time because I was trying to see what Andrew Doyle actually did. And he goes on and he complained about. Here's an example. Last night on the phone, after Andrew sent me a text saying, "Why are you being so hostile to me? Why? Can I ask you why you're so hostile to me?" So because I get angry and I engage with shit, I wanted to call him up and give him a little say, "Okay, look, motherfucker, you're the fucking anti-woke guy. If you don't like criticism, you better become a wet nurse." I mean, what the fuck? What are you doing? What is this shit? Because I've seen what you did. Sam White is a comedian. And he's threatened. She did a mock-up poster of Andrew Doyle with Douglas Murray saying, I forget the title, but it was a piss take on what she thought Andrew Doyle represented. Andrew Doyle threatened her with legal action. So on the phone last night, I brought that up. I said, why are you threatening, if you're part of this free speech thing, why are you threatening Sam White with legal action? I didn't threaten her with legal action. Oh, you did threaten her with legal action. And I read to him what he'd written to Sam White, the comedian. And if you want to support her, I'm supporting the fuck out of her. For what she's had to endure from that prick. He had written to her, well, I'll be speaking to my lawyer. And I didn't know this because I didn't study law. I studied restoration and 18th century literature. I didn't study law. And I don't think Andrew studied law either, but I think he's hung around with enough legalese, double-talking, communist fuckheads. Well, I'm not saying we should defend Sabisky, but it's important to debate what he said. They speak out of both sides of their fucking mouths because they don't fucking stand for anything. They think, blah, 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 that's freedom of speech to them. That's why most of them are probably on fucking drugs, and the kind that the good doctor gives you. He's probably having a breakdown as well. I was thinking. So Sam White, he says to her, I said, look, Andrew, you have written to this woman. I have the public screenshot right here. You have written, I'm speaking to my lawyer. And he says, yes, but that's not hearing from my lawyer. So according to Andrew, if he had said to her, you'll be hearing from my lawyer, that would be legal action. But because he only said he was going to speak to his lawyer, that's not. I brought up the word sophistry, and I found out this is how Andrew Doyle fights back in an argument. Andrew Doyle says, yeah, I know, that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing, right? Andrew Doyle could be, chopping up a hitchhiker. And I could say, do you know you're murdering somebody? I know, that's what you're doing, right? That's it. No accountability whatsoever. Because, and why wouldn't he? He's puffed himself up as we are the free speech comedy night. And I'm going to get to the other booker here in a second. Puff yourself up that. Yeah, of course you don't want somebody coming along like me, like dirty old filthy me. Just do the Greta stuff. And that's what I was getting. The show before this last show that my girlfriend was kind enough to film, because I knew damn sure Comedy Unleashed was not going to release that video, because Alistair Beckett King, another comedian who I am politically as far removed from that you can get, he criticized the night from the stage, and he's not allowed to have his video. And I have made common cause with Alistair King. And I've made common cause with Sam White and anybody else who sees through this bullshit. Because they're the most censorious lot that I've ever met. And so this is what the other booker was doing this to me, the show before the last one. And this is, I mean, it'd been building up forever. I have made references to kissing. I have made cracks about the overblown importance of this Titania McGrath account. That I honestly think now the only people that find it funny are the people that are part of that brainwash cult of whatever this is. It's part battle of ideas. It's part just mischief. I think there's a lot of Oxford, Cambridge. I don't know. Who knows? We don't know with these people. We don't know, but we know what they want. They want to present a unified image. I mean, they went so apeshit over a Vice article that was very. I don't know anything about Vice, but they were very critical of them. And all of a sudden, I noticed the lineup started to change, and you start to see more people with hijabs on the lineup, right? And just bit by bit, they react in fear. They are so afraid because they know that they know this is such a tenuous. It's held together by a tissue of lies. So the show before the last, I go up and do 10 minutes, and I make a few cracks about Spiked Online, which I made the mistake years ago of thinking that they were conservative, because I thought, well, free speech must be conservative. I'm an idiot. I don't spend my time doing dossiers about, and I probably should have, and I apologize for that. I just thought free speech, I support free speech. I didn't think it was going to lead to this. Maybe future reference, I probably should, and I should sit down and I should say, okay, these are creeps, right? The Battle of Ideas, I did 4 Battle of Ideas panels until it became, this is how thick I can be sometimes, until after 4 panels I realized you don't want a solution because you keep asking the same questions over. You don't want it. This is just entertainment for you. You don't watch boxing. You watch 2 academics go, now, yes, now, yes, now, yes. Fuck you. Give me tennis. And I don't even like that sport. Right? So I'm at that show, and I'm switching the topics. I did the Greta stuff, so now I'm gonna go after Battle of Ideas, because it'll really people will understand it here. There you go. Battle of Ideas, Spiked, and then I'm told not to lecture by the other book. He tells me not to lecture, and this was the night Toby Young was on stage, and I said, "Did you tell Toby Young not to lecture?" The great Toby Young, the associate editor of The Spectator, who gives you column space for your mediocre little, here's something I learned about political correctness today. I mean, whatever. This stuff a fucking 5th grader could write. A 5th grader, whatever the equivalent is out here, a 5th grade child could write half of this shit that the anti-woke movement is putting out. And yet they call it satire. And that's when the penny dropped. I thought, I was shocked when The Spectator, Titania McGrath is brilliant. What he's doing with Twitter is amazing. What the fuck happened? But then when you meet Toby Young and you see all the connections and you go, that's the catch-22. They're all in bed together. Of course they're going to write a fucking article that says this is great comedy. Oh, by the way, Andy Shaw, can I have a spot on your comedy night? I've never done a lick of comedy in my life, and all I've got as far as a repertoire is me reading my old tweets talking about cleavage at number 10 or in the House of Commons. How about some stage time, Andy Shaw? Nepotism. And do you think I'm not going to call that out? You don't know me. I'm not the Greta boy. And this is what he did afterward. Do more Greta. Do more to... And I always do him as a cigar chomping. You know, when I hear him in my head, not Andrew Doyle, the other Booker, I hear a cigar chomping 1970s age. You know, like, just kind of do more Greta. Do the Greta stuff. Do the funny stuff. And I was really getting the vibe. You're trying to control me. You're trying to tell me exactly what topics to do and what not to do. You want me to stay away from these fakers and go after these fakers. We got to, this is a problem. And, I'm going to do what the fuck I want to do. And hopefully I'm going to take y'all down with me, because this shit's not going to stand. I've seen your treatment of people and you're fucking horrible. So you put Toby Young up there, a guy who thinks you should debate eugenics in the marketplace of ideas. And you don't, and he's not, and that's no lecture. The next day, another thing that happened that night was somebody wanted to know, why I thought Konstantin Kisin was a fraud. And he was there that night, he was opening. And I was trying to explain to an audience member who had asked a question, and Andy Shaw, the other Booker, stood there and went, boring, boring. So I couldn't be heard. Remind you of how Milo Yiannopoulos was treated at some universities, or Germaine Greer, if you want to go the other side of the political spectrum. These people are they act like fascists. They are, I don't want to use the word, they're the snowflakes, the bad snowflakes, not the kind that are no two are alike. They're the precious people. And we know this because they, after I was trying to pin Andrew Doyle down last night on, so I'm reading him quotes from Toby Young. So do you still not think he's a eugenicist? If that's true, Will, I will say something. Will you say it on one of your many fucking appearances on, I don't know, the Trigonometry podcast, the Joe Rogan Experience? Claire Fox said that, she didn't, so according to Andrew Doyle, he's told Claire Fox to her face. I said, I don't agree with you on your whole child porn thing. And yet when he goes on air, anytime he's got, like a long form public platform to say something really earth shattering, he devotes his time to lesbians kissing in Star Wars. Fuck you. You stand for nothing. You stand for nothing. Spiked magazine. I don't think we should be that concerned about FGM or fucking coronavirus. I mean, that was fucking, when they wrote that, right? I went to that gig before this last one. I went to that gig, the night where he started to say, do more Greta stuff. Do more of the, matter of fact, Andy Shaw actually shouted from the back of the room, a Booker, this has never happened before. Never. In 20 years. The Booker shouts, do Greta. He wants to control the narrative of the night. And the narrative of the night is go after anybody you want to go after as long as it's not us. As long as it's not the creeps, the utter fucking academic, upper class creeps who speak on behalf of the working classes and assume that the working classes have time to dick around on Twitter and fawn over some rag weak Oxford kid pretending to be a fucking SJW. Ridiculous. How insulting. And they thought I would stay away from this. They thought I always put some little dig against them in every, it's about 6 months now, right? You try to mix it up. But it became very clear, and so here he is, he's shouting me down. The next day I get a text from Andy Shaw going, 3 people were concerned about you last night because of your angry ranting. So I called him up. I said, what do I give a fuck? What do I care? Do you honestly think that I'm going to stop and tailor my set to suit the feelings of 3 people? Do you realize the people that I pissed off over the years? What kind of man are you? What kind of man does this to another man? I know I'm from Missouri. I know, I didn't have the greatest childhood. I didn't have a really loving father. I often wonder if this is the case. My father was pretty fucking, unhinged at times, But I tell you one thing. I'm perfectly okay with solitude as a result of that. I don't really need people to hang out with. I grew, in my location where I grew up, I'm okay being on my own. These people aren't. These people are so afraid of being alone and left out of the big game, they're willing to hang out with fucking eugenics apologists. That's pretty desperate, isn't it? God, I fucking look eerie with this. Does it look better with this? How's that? Helen Dale, I was going to talk about her. The night I did the Greta thing, this is the kind of idiots, the overpaid idiots that you meet at this night, right? Helen Dale writes for the Spectator. After I did the Greta thing, that clip that no longer is available because Comedy Unleashed took their football and went home. They took all my videos down. I don't give a fuck. To be honest with you, I was embarrassed to have my name associated with them. I'm glad that you don't get to see me in front of that placard where what it really means is Comedy Unleashed unless you go after us. Unless you go after the people who are funding us, who are attending our shows, this sort of unprincipled mischief that makes us think, oh, we're so damn clever. We're so damn clever. We're so principled because we gave a guy who trained the dog to do a Nazi salute a stage. Aren't we? We're so human. Ridiculous. Spiked online that night. They'd written an article going, can we just calm down about the whole coronavirus shit? And they still won't. Fuckhead Brendan O'Neill was on TV last night doing the same. He was doing, well, I know it's a bad thing, but can we just calm down with the apocalyptic scenarios? Fucking hell, because that's it. They're invested in the business of you say up, I say down. That's it. There's nothing anchoring them to morality. So, Andy Shaw is trying to control, do more Greta. That's good. I like that. Do more Greta. Do the funny stuff. That's it. Because they're not actually going to say, I ban you from doing this. This is how they work. This is how they work their shit. Do more of the funny stuff. Well, I did funny stuff last Tuesday. And my topics were Toby Young, Andrew Doyle, Konstantin Kisin, the Brexit Party, who else? Claire Fox by name, the message from, now all the people who want, by the way, let me just read you Andy Shaw's text. This was from this morning. So these are the two bookers. So this is Andrew Doyle. This is 11 o'clock last night, and Andrew Doyle. I can imagine Andrew Doyle with some pink champagne on ice, maybe on an island in Rojito, wherever that is, in a pink satiny nightgown. What? Now, apparently the story was, when I got him on the phone, he said, somebody told me that you'd made a video slagging me off. And I said, I don't know, I've done a few videos slagging you off. What exactly did I say? He says, I don't know because I haven't seen it. And again, this is the big golden breastplated Spartan warrior of the free speech anti-woke brigade. He didn't know what I said, but he said this. I should have had my glasses. I've shown nothing but love and appreciation towards you, and I'll help you. Well, Oxford. I'll help you when you needed it, and in return. Oh no, this is Andy. Sorry, this is a different voice for Andy. Here's Andy Doyle last night. 11 o'clock last night. Satin nightgown, pink champagne on ice. And again, Andrew, this is satire because this is who I think you are. It's not real. It's the character, but I'm doing it for a fucking reason. I'm doing it for a fucking reason instead of I'm Puck, the Midnight Elf. And I'm Titania, and it's a midnight rebel. What do you stand for? I don't, my head's exploding. Try pinning one of these motherfuckers down. It's like talking to a Scientologist. Any particular reason you're being so hostile to me? Given that you're a friend, I'd rather you had the decency to talk to me about it. He thinks he's my friend because he got me a role in the Jonathan Pye movie. I'm working class. They paid me £250 to do it. I did it because it was £250, and the role I had to play was myself as somebody who voted for Trump, and I got to insult the character of Jonathan Pye, which was a nice, cathartic piece because I thought that character was bullshit. So it was, it was Bethnal Green. I was living in Forest Gate, zip over on the tube, blah, 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 and fuck you, I voted Trump, cunt, and £250, yeah. So he thinks that's friendship, doesn't he? And I can understand why people are confused about friendship because he lives online. He lives in a world of up, down, thumbs up. How many friends have I collected on Facebook? So he thinks he's a friend. And yet he booked somebody who declared that he would never book me. He booked a blacklister. And I know he doesn't. Andrew comes from a communist background, and he doesn't understand the word blacklister. Right? When you've been blacklisted, you truly understand it. That means your merit has nothing to do with why you're not working. It's what you do. That's who you are. Ugh, smells bad. It's horrible. Ooh, he's a bit gruff, right? So I engaged. I jumped right in, and I wanted to give him a little verbal slap and say, you better fucking grow up. Because I can say whatever the fuck I want. I can say whatever the fuck I want, and I don't need my speech monitored by buzzing little boys buzzing around the internet and buzzing. Because he didn't just do it to me. He's done it to Peter Hitchens. Peter Hitchens, who I've quoted a few times in these videos, because Peter Hitchens is an old school conservative. And Peter Hitchens apparently sent a tweet that said he wasn't that impressed with Andrew Doyle. And Andrew Doyle said, man, all the spike people are coming after him. And they said, you should like this, because you're on the same side. And Peter Hitchens says, are we on the same side? What does he feel about abortion? What does he feel about Christianity? We don't know. Peter, if you're watching, I'm sure you're not, but I do often quote you, Peter, when you say that Britain has borrowed some of the worst aspects of American culture and left the best behind. I agree with you. So if you're watching, Peter, I've tried to talk to Andrew Doyle. I've tried to pin him down on what he believes, and it's tough. It's like a little squirmy bug. You can't just, it's difficult, and any of those people that come from that, and you're bang on rights when you bang on rights. Is that you're whatever the term is? You're absolutely right when you say that they're communist. They're a communist background, and it's just like spreading confusion. There's nothing there. No, this is better. So that was his little call last night, and then I just got on the phone, and and he wouldn't answer the phone. I was like, "Be a man, call me. What the fuck? You want to fucking talk about it? Let's talk about it, for fuck's sake. Here's my problem with this, and you better get your shit straight. And I can do whatever the fuck I want." And my main issue was, I have never felt in 20 years of all the bookers that I've ever worked with, be they left, be they right, be they Yanks, be they Brits, I have never ever worked with anybody who was more touchy about what somebody was saying about them and was more critical than this fucking lot, and more censorious than this fucking lot. And you know how it is when you're engaged in a circular, it's just never going to end, but it's just, you're just hurling all the fucking anger that you can at them. And that's how it was. It was like, what do you stand for? Why is that a principle? Do you care about quality? Because this is a fucking real thing. Why are you monitoring people's speeches? Why are you telling Sam White you're going to threaten her with legal action? Why are you denying Alistair Beckett King his video, the one that he made that was critical of the night? Why are you booking Toby Young? Why are you saying that Toby Young? Why are you willfully denying that Toby Young wants to debate eugenics? Why are you doing this? What is it about? You've never had somebody, and I think he's never had somebody from the inside, right? I was in that fucking comedy night. And unlike Kissin and all these other fucking frauds, I did lose something. They paid me. They booked me. They gave me a stage. They paid me. And there comes a point. Well, there's a certain inevitability to it for me. That's what I do. And I do it very, very well. And I don't give people I didn't go to San Francisco and do a bunch of George Bush jokes because everybody was doing it. Everybody was doing it. I had to, you can't really be perfect. What makes you so perfect? And I start to go after those people, right? And that's what's happening. We're perfect. And everybody else who's not this comedy night is a notch below us because we've got unleashed here, right? And we're really risky too. So I kept saying, why did you book Toby Young? Well, I like to give new comedians a shot. And it doesn't have anything to do with the associate editor to the Spectator? Nope, not at all. No accountability there whatsoever. So it was futile. But the point is, I got off the phone and they took down every single video that I'd ever appeared in at Comedy Unleashed. And I guess that's the way that they would like to deal with this, which is pretty stupid because I'm the funniest comedian that they ever had. So they're just going to have, it might not, be the Leo curse. I'm a brand new right-wing comedian. Brand new. I voted to remain, but I'm putting a new right-wing. You got that. And eventually people will yawn and put him to sleep. And I don't know if anybody wants to fund me or whatever. I thought, maybe I should put on a night in London on Tuesday, on the second Tuesday of the month, and say, you got a choice now. I know you like freedom of speech and debate and all that. How about freedom of choice? How about if people want to see actually, good comedy, they can come down the road and watch me do an hour of whatever I want to do without feeling like I'm being fucking corralled into towing the party line. I don't believe in climate change, and I don't believe in these fucks either. They're horrible people. So Andy Shaw, because I was just like, I called Andy Shaw last night and I said, just shouting on the fucking, because I get angry. I got that working class rage in me. I said, don't you dare fucking tell me what to do. Don't you fucking dare. So Andy Shaw this morning, texting rather than speaking. Nobody wants to speak to the loud, angry Will. It's gruff for the ears. I've shown nothing but love and appreciation towards you, and I'll help you when you needed it. And in return, you spray shit in our faces. I sprayed shit in their faces because I had a problem with eugenics. Because I had a problem with Some fucking loser slob from Manchester, hosting the panel every year, charging people £100 so she can go on TV and say, I don't think the government should get involved with censoring child porn. I'm just for freedom of all kinds. Fuck you. Fuck you. You know who that bitch is? Have you seen the movie 5 Easy Pieces? When Jack Nicholson goes back to his parents' house, and they're all, middle class, well-to-do people up in Washington State, and they invite some friends over, and one of the friends is this woman who's holding court. She's in this caftan. She's like talking, deconstructing words, and that's reactive, and this, and he calls her a pompous celibate cunt. You pompous celibate. That's what Claire Fox is. You pompous celibate cunt. IRA bombing, jihadi videos, and this is the kind of stuff. That was my naivete. I thought surely people have. There's going to be a bit of common sense when it comes to free speech. No, that wasn't on the menu at all for this lot. For this well organized lot of people who found a way to fucking capitalize on this. Woke, a guide to social justice. Come on, man. Come on. A pompous celibate cunt who has many acolytes. That's so brilliant. Helen Dell. I was gonna give you an example. Back in May of last year, when I did the night that I did the Greta night, again, months before anybody was touching the topic, just like I'm ahead of the game on this. I'm ahead of the game on this. I did a show in Oakland years ago, and the only other I couldn't compare what Comedy Unleashed has done to me with any other. Yeah, they've treated me nice. When he says you've treated me nice, this is what he means. Andy Shaw means that I've booked you for a gig when nobody else would book you, and I've given you money. And you sprayed shit in our face when you mocked Toby Young from the stage, and you yell at precious little Andrew Doyle on the phone for not having any principles. Oh, not only that, and going on my social media and saying, here's what the fuck's going on down there. Here's how they try to shape the narrative. That's his version of me spraying shit in their faces. So in other words, what he meant was, why won't you a good party apparatchik? That's what he means. Peter Hitchens is dead on right when he says this is neither left nor right. It's a weird throwback RCP communist bullshit, which are the worst kind of pigs because they speak on behalf of the working classes all the time. My favorite bit in that footage that's up there, my personal favorite, is when let's meet the members of the new Brexit Party. Speaking of shit, here's some members of the new Brexit Party: Claire Fox and her friend's a pedophile, a jihadi, and an IRA bomber. I love that. It just sums them up. And here's the thing: Andy last time was saying, just do the stuff that gets the laughs. Well, they laughed that night. And when I got off the stage, the first he gave me this look like, and I said, they were characters. Because initially what I was going to do, I was so fucking consumed with anger. When I'm consumed with a certain emotion, it's really hard for me to write. I kind of have to be a little bit happy to write. The anger has to subside a bit, because I do shake when I get angry sometimes. And I was so angry with him telling me shit like, well, Andy Shaw, right? Andy Shaw does not find Konstantin Kisin funny. This is what he tells me. What he tells Kisin about me, who God knows. This is what he tells me. So why do you book him? Well, he told me himself that, Andy Shaw confessed up and he said, I built the whole story up about the safe space agreement. I got all the media stuff out there because I thought it would be good for the club. So you didn't care if you were promoting a mediocre comedian and calling this the brave new world of comedy. That didn't occur to you. You just wanted to help the club out. So you went to what weird, bizarre, underworld, seedy little eugenics platform. God knows what they went to fucking plug this shit. I don't know what the fuck's going on out there. I never saw a Sargon of Akkad video. I don't know who these people are. I do my shit, and then I fucking, I do my little projects, like that. I don't need to watch people to get in a fucking opinion. I have my opinions. I'm just telling you what happened, and then how you should watch out for these fuckers and what they're doing to people. And I personally myself, I don't think they have much power. I think they're organized in the sense of that they're able to milk this shit for money, and they're able to get people to come to their ideas, battle things, and all that. But I don't know if they're really any significant threat. Helen Dale was this woman I keep alluding to and never finishing the story. Was the night of the Greta night. I just done this 45-minute set. The only pieces that has been up is a 25 minute. There was 20 minutes before that they haven't put up. I don't know. Who knows what the reasons are. That was a 45-minute show, and I was, just got off stage. I was exhausted. I was sweaty. I just wanted to go outside and smoke and kind of be on, like not have to talk to a lot of people. No offense, it's just like I'm kind of gathering my wits. Because unlike Andrew Doyle and Kissen and all these other fucking mediocre hacks, what I do requires energy and skill, memorization, concentration. I'm kind of fucked in the head afterwards for a few minutes, And Helen Dale comes up, and I don't know, but I imagine she sounded like this. I don't know, because basically, to me, she sounded like Charlie Brown's teacher. But every now and then, I would occasionally get some phrases. And I really loved your Greta stuff. I really loved your Greta. That was so great, the Greta stuff. I actually got into a Twitter row with the Vendor. And this fucking boring dullard works for Spectator, right? Probably rubs shoulders with Toby Young, works for the Spectator. They're all part of the same fucking network. Is droning on to me for 20 fucking minutes about this tweet. Oh, really? And then what did he tweet back? Oh, wow. And have you ever met this person in real life? Wow, you're really lucky, huh? Oh, you got hatred on Twitter too? Guess what? Twitter's where people go to hate. And Twitter's where people go to say, I ate some food today. And Twitter's where people say, my Uncle Johnny's having a bowel condition. Twitter it's a cesspool, So Andrew Doyle goes and plays in the cesspool with his little elfin boots and finds that sometimes he gets the mucky, because he was on the phone last night going, I get so much hatred. I get so much hatred. Yeah, I see the kind of hatred you get. You get on Twitter. Have you ever gotten in real life? Yes, my uncle's friends, brothers, fathers, mothers, sisters, cousins, dog called me a Nazi. Oh my gosh. Oh my Lord! And how is your residence in the Channel Islands? Is it holding up okay amidst all the Twitter pushback? Oh, you poor little thing, you poor little precious thing. So these are the kind of boring. They're just dreadful. They have no. I was on. Oh, did you see what I did? You just complimented me on what I did on stage. Can you do that? You can't do that, can you? So shut up. You write for the Spectator. Why don't you go fucking write something? What is it? You Twitter. How old are you, woman? How old are you? Look, we're all guilty of it. I did the Facebook. I do the Facebook thing because you can write a little bit more. We're all guilty of it from time to time, and I was guilty of it once before too. Hold on a second. I'll be right back. Well, so we're nearing the end, and I was actually looking over my notes. I made some notes because I feel like this is such a. I don't know. It's hard. There's so many angles. I mean, when I talked to him last night, I said, there's so many issues I have with you. I mean, by the way, Friends. I've never. I don't think it was years ago. I had any kind of like a coffee with the guy or whatever like that. I mean, I don't know what people. Everybody's a friend now, and we're all supposed to get along, and I'm just not that way. That's what I say. These people need each other. And Kissen needs Doyle, and Doyle needs whoever he fucking, Andy Shaw or the Battle of Ideas or Spiked or whatever. They need each other because they're invested in all this shit. And if he'd been on if at the end of that conversation, if he had said, "My God, I didn't know that about Toby Young's eugenics. I didn't know he was apologizing for it and trying to debate it and." Whatever, and he'd apologized or something like that, or they say, we should have been very clear. We claim this night is about a principle, but it's really not. It's just really just some mischievous lark or whatever like that. I kind of would have understood it, or if they'd hired me and said, we here at Comedy Unleashed it's just nominal. It's just nominal. I wouldn't take it too seriously. So basically, it was just a normal comedy night, and if we hire you, we'd like you to stay away from these topics. I would consider it, and I would think, okay, well, I do have other topics, and I'll take the money, thank you. But that wasn't the case. Over and over and over again, it was built. We are the free speech alternative to all the dreadful comedy that you've ever seen before in your life. We're the free speech alternative. When clearly they're not. They were trying to. They wanted me to do more of the Greta stuff, stay away from the Spiked and the Battle of Ideas stuff. Stay away from the Brexit Party. And just do more Greta. We always love the Greta. He wanted me to write a pilot at one point, and he was, he said, I've come up with, I've come up with all of your sketches, Will, and which ones would you like to do? And I said, well, how about the one about, the the Polish guy who fucks this middle class guy's wife, and just a bunch of stuff. And I didn't pick the Greta thing. And he said, we decided to go ahead with the Greta thing. Like, he decided on his own that they were going to make a pilot with the Greta thing. And he would always tell me about people that I had no. I remember one time. Well, there was one. I went to his office to talk about this pilot when it became apparent that what he really wanted me to do was, it seemed like, write something for some think tank somewhere, you know. And I was telling him, look, I know this sounds crazy, but I want to get on the BBC again one day, because what Stephen Fry, even though he's not doing it now, what Stephen Fry once did on the BBC is still better than anything that's coming out of either the woke or the anti-woke movement, you know. So like, I don't want you shopping my shit around to some fucking dark web weird shit, you know. And then he says, James Delingpole. He was always quoting James Delingpole and stuff like that, and I don't know. I don't know anything about this culture. Who knows what they do, but they all seem to suck each other's dick. And one of the things that I asked Andrew Doyle last night, I said, you're hanging out with the Claire Fox and all that, and this battle of ideas shit. What do you think about what she says about child porn? I disagree with it, and I tell it to her face, and yet he doesn't do that in interviews. It's just bizarre. And speaking of that, you know, I did an interview for the BBC. I think it was 7-8 months ago. And they wanted me to come up, and they tricked me like they sometimes do. They tricked me, and they said, it's not about politics, it's just about your comedy, how you do your style. I guess it was after the Greta thing. You know, what your comedy's about and how you form your characters. And I thought, that'd be good. I'll go up and talk about my comedy. And I also thought too, thank fuck, it has nothing to do with politics. I can just talk about my comedy. And of course I get on there, and it was a gotcha thing. They're like, you don't believe in climate change? No. And they're trying to pin me down with this, you voted for Trump? Yes, I voted for Trump. But you know what's funny? I tried to say, at one point I said, you know, but what's really getting on my nerves now is that there's this fake right-wing movement. And I was naming names. And I was saying, you know, I think these are the people we should look out for. This is gonna be the thing that needs toppling next. So these people saying that they stand for free speech when they don't. And they weren't interested in that. You know, and it really plays into their version of mischief. I hate to say, I mean, both sides are kind of culpable here. Like the BBC, the Sky News has had me on with Bonnie Greer, who I happen to consider a friend. And I'm a white American. She's a black American. She's from Chicago. I'm from Missouri. She's from a city. I'm from the country. And they put us on together. And you always got the feeling they want us to, like, okay, now fight, argue with each other. You know. And I adore this woman. I absolutely adore her. When I met Toby Young, because I didn't know the fucker. I met him up in Manchester for the first time, and I didn't know anything about him. All I knew was that I had heard that he supported grammar schools. So that's it. That's all I knew. And I thought, you know, good, right on, you know, grammar schools. You know, because I'm doing Paradise Lost, and I do all sorts of weird projects. I don't want to fucking research who people are. Maybe you have to do that this day. In the social media age, you got to look up who people are and what they supposedly stand for. And I brought up Bonnie Greer as an example of somebody who's always trying to get the conversation back to culture and art and literature, because that's her background and that's my background. So when these reductive people in the media and at Comedy Unleashed, when these reductive people say, okay, but you believe this and you believe it, now fight, right? Like the Claire Foxes, now fight, now argue. Her and I have things in common when it comes to literature. We have a common meeting ground. So I don't look at her as snowflake, and she doesn't look at me as hate monger, right? We're intellectual, well-rounded people. And Toby Young came backstage, and I was going to bring her up as an example of what I thought was somebody with a deep appreciation of literature and art. You know, I didn't know his background with Bonnie Greer, and I said, well, the great thing about somebody like Bonnie Greer. And I was going to say what she said recently. They had her on a thing about John Cleese saying what it was he said, you know. And she said, I don't know if he's racist. I just, you know, and she tried to bring it back to Shakespeare and to elevate the discussion, right? Which our world could surely fucking need right now, especially this country. And so I brought him up. I said, well, the great thing about Bonnie, she's a horrible person. Just like that, man. Just like that, because he doesn't have he. You can die. Anybody can die. You don't need to be a psychiatrist to diagnose this guy. You know, he's He wants to be. The character that I did summed him up perfectly. He wants to be from New York. Why bother doing a fucking middle class, weak boy accent with them, some posh public school kid, when this is who he wants to be in his soul. And when he's talking about Twitter, to me that's like, oh, that's it. That's how to do it. That's how to do it. So, if Comedy Unleashed weren't so touchy and hypersensitive about criticism of their night, which they clearly are, don't ask me, ask Sam White, ask Alistair Beckett King, and the list goes on. Ask Peter Hitchens. I was sniffing around the internet like the internet bloodhound, Googling my name or whatever, and I found that you're not that impressed with what I do. Excuse me, Mr. Peter Hitchens, I think you are. I think you damn well are. And if you don't believe me, I have a whole army of spiked contributors that are going to back me up. Back away from this phalanx if you can, Mr. So-called conservative. Ask all of us. They're a censorious lot of hypersensitive people who probably are on all sorts of fucking mental health drugs. Maybe that's why they believe in eugenics. Maybe that's why they court people like Toby Young who want to debate eugenics in the marketplace of ideas. Because guess who else uses genes as a theory? Doctors who want to put your kids on pills because they're a little rambunctious sometimes and they want to medicate them from cradle to fucking grave. They do it. They use genes as well. I was born this way. I can't do anything about it. Right? Well, what do you think Toby Young's doing? But see, Toby Young's doing it because, isn't it tough of me to debate eugenics? Isn't that tough? It's indefensible, not by me, because I'm a cunt. Right? They're doing the same thing. Let's keep people exactly as they are from cradle to grave. And you call yourself a fucking conservative? If I wasn't a comedian, I would have hit him. Honestly, I would have hit him. And I weighed two possibilities the month before this one. I weighed two possibilities after that show. And one possibility was, I'm so fucking angry right now. I'm going to go up there with a written statement saying, this place is, I've never been told more what to do and what not to do on the stage than this place, and just go through a litany of things. Or I could write I've got 20 minutes. I could write 20 minutes skewering them satirically. And yet, as is often pointed out, we live in an age where there's no shame. Really. There's no shame. And I think in earlier time, in Roman times, right, or Greek times, when you had satirists like Hipponix, who I've quoted on these videos before, who reputedly wrote satires that were so effective, the subjects would go home and hang themselves because they could not bear the shame. But we don't have any shame now, do we? Because if I insult Toby Young, what did Toby Young do? And I only know this third hand. I want to be careful. I have assistants who tell me things, but I don't. I'm here doing Milton. I don't like to look at this shit. But they said, "Did you see this?" I said, "No, I didn't see this." That Toby Young went right back to as if nothing had happened. And he's right back to snowflake. And to see what happened in the snowflake, he goes right back to another denial, right? Because you can do that in this day and age, right? If I shame you from a stage, it's going to sting while you're watching it, but you can always go back to your Twitter account and you get 30 people giving you a happy emoji and all's well that ends well. Well, that seems, but it didn't go that way last night because after Andrew Doyle got all upset and because I said something that he didn't even know what it was, they pulled down all the videos from Comedy Unleashed, and it's a brand new chapter in my life. And if you want somebody who doesn't give a fuck about any of this and just wants to make good comedy, I know quality is the thing that went out with the short trousers or whatever. It went out of fashion years ago. The quality is not the thing now. What's important is that we all have an audience. And if you want to be if you're a journalist and you want to be a comedian and you print my columns, why, God damn it, boy, you can have an audience of 200 to tell you you're a genius because you say boobies. Nepotism, man. That's what that was the catalyst. I mean, there were things that niggled me about that night forever, but the catalyst was you people really are trying to shape a narrative of this night, and the overarching principle or lack thereof for you is that this night and the people who perform here and the people who and some of the people, not all of the people, look. I'm sure many of the people who come to that night are fucking people who love good comedy. And I'm sure that a lot of people are eventually not going to go there anymore because their funniest comedian was blacklisted, and people are going to show up and say, this, yeah, we know what you do, we get it now. And and matter of fact, who knows, retroactively, there's an optimistic part of me that's wondering, maybe people will go back and see the other stuff I've done, or written about or whatever, and think like, he wasn't really a nefarious person. He had reasons for what he was doing, and he just does. It seems to be the guiding principle is he doesn't like bullshit. I'm not a perfect person. I have anger issues like a motherfucker, but I do tend to call bullshit when I see it when it comes to the arts and entertainment. And so that was the catalyst. Was that, and I knew I was being controlled. And I alluded to this Oakland show years ago in the Bay Area when I first started out. There was a guy a young kid, well, he's 10 years younger than me, tattoos, piercings all over his face, and he ran this. It was a half poetry slam, half shock comedy night, and he had me on. He wanted me on every week to do my weird stuff, as he called it. And he'd always say, "Go do your most shocking stuff. Just get out there and shock them. Get in and shock them. And it was about 500. We get 500 people into this warehouse, and they were, hip hoppers and street poets and a lot of uni kids, from San Francisco State. And I remember one night I went up and criticized the night. That's when I wrote my bit about the poetry slam, where John Milton loses to some asshole named CK1, who has a much inferior poem. And afterwards, the guy said, he came up to me afterwards, he goes, "Don't ever do that again." So I said, "Oh yeah, okay, I shocked the shocking show. Don't ever do that again." And I think it was about a month later, I was at another gig in Berkeley, across the way, and this guy came up to me after the gig, and he said, "I saw you do that show. I used to come to that show all the time, that shock comedy show. I used to come there all the time. And I hated you that night. When you went on stage and you criticized the actual night, I hated you. I really resented you." And he said, "I went back to that show 2 or 3 times afterwards, and then I realized that you were right." And so I think if it doesn't happen now, I think eventually people are going to say, I've heard, if you don't hear from me, you might hear from like all these other sources, but this is somebody who was like entrenched with them, and the penny will drop and people will say, "Yeah, this is kind of like, it doesn't really stand for anything." And you're kind of making, as my friend Jay Hanley says, you're making mountains out of molehills. Essentially a free gig was offered to Kissin, and they didn't want him to say faggot. And thanks to Andy Shaw and all the contacts at the Spectator and the who knows, the press agents or whoever the fuck he got on board with it, fanned the flames, right? Doesn't matter if the guy's talented or not. Just fan the flames, right? Build a story up out of nothing, and we'll sort out the whole quality of the comedy later. We'll deal with that later, maybe in the afterlife, if there is one. Well, we're communists, so we don't believe in the afterlife. But if we just die, there's nothing. Tough titty. See, I believe in God, right? And my God does not limit people by the communities they're born into. Does not limit people. You're free. You're truly free. You're truly free. We don't often feel that way, but we are. And so that's what I did. I decided to go over there. And thanks again to my friend Jay Hanley, because we talked about it, and he said, "Don't do that. Don't do your characters." I was weighing those two options. Do I go up there and in a fit of anger say, "This is what the fuck's happening here," or do I write 20 minutes of characters? And he said, "Do the characters," and he was damn right. Do the characters. Make your point through that. And that way you can go off stage and you can go up to Andy Shaw and you can say, I didn't lecture. I did as you told me. I wrote, because I had Andy Shaw on the phone after that gig when he said 3 people were upset. And I had him on the phone the day after the gig, and I said, I was giving him all sorts of alternatives. I said, "Can I bring my piano on the stage? I happen to play piano. Not, what I think is good, And no, immediately, no, it's a comedy night. It's a comedy night, right? And I said, okay. I said, what if because Andy Shaw was influential in helping to start and promote the Brexit Party, right? Which includes Claire Fox, the pedophile, child porn, no government interference in child porn, jihadis or IRA stuff. So when you go after the Brexit Party, that's one of his personal babies, right? The Brexit Party. So I had him on the phone, and I said, okay, here's a hypothetical. Let's say I want to write a 20-minute, because he kept saying, do funny stuff. Do more of the Greta. I like the Greta stuff. I like the this, all the mundane shit that I've already tackled. I said, what if I devoted 20 minutes to what puerile, juvenile idiocy it was for the Brexit Party in Europe to stand up and turn their backs on the Ode to Joy? I agree it's unfortunate that the EU uses that for their anthem, but you don't turn your back on Beethoven and expect me not to call you a Philistine. So I threw that out there as a possibility. So what if you want me to do? Okay, so I hear what you're saying. You want me to do more characters and not digress into any opinions about topics that you don't like. But let's say I wanted to do 20 minutes of characters mocking the Brexit Party for doing that. No, that's too old. This is what Andy Shaw says. No, that's too old. Shoots down every fucking idea and comes back to do more Greta. Well, I want to thank the audience that was there Tuesday night, because that audience laughed. And and Toby Young was in the room. And whether or not Toby Young laughed, we may never know. Because it's the difference between satire and parody. What Andrew Doyle does, and what he doesn't even do satire. But Andrew Doyle, this fake Twitter account is parody. Parody is lighthearted mischief. It doesn't get to the soul of an issue. He puts a fake picture up there and says, "This is me, not. This is me, not." Right? That's parody. That's lighthearted, whimsical mischief. Satire is when you get to the soul of somebody and their motivations and their abhorrent views are held up to ridicule. That's what Toby Young got. Now, Toby Young's a fucking moron who doesn't know the difference between parody and satire, and that's why he gives column space in The Spectator to shit like Kissinger and shit like Doyle, because he's a moron. Why would we expect somebody who believes that genes has anything to do with intelligence? Why would we expect him to know something as subtle and nuanced as the difference between parody and satire? But he got satire that night, and I thank the audience from the bottom of my heart that they showed Andy Shaw that people can laugh at that, and they can recognize this shit, and they can laugh at it regardless of what your vested interests are. Your vested interests are in maintaining the lie that you people stand for freedom, which you do not. I came home after that gig, and again, thanks to Jay Hanley, because he was right. I came home that night after that gig, and I sat down at my keyboard to blow off steam. And when I play music, I get lost in my own thought. I get very nostalgic sometimes, and I imagine, things from my past or whatever, just kind of as my mind wanders. And I found myself thinking about those friends that I told you about at the beginning. My friends, we called ourselves the Core. That was our name for our little group. We were the Core, and we hung out in Danny. He was my friend who never, he was 35 years old, and he couldn't leave. Not then, he was a teenager when I knew him, but he never left his mother's house. He's since passed on, but he had a little garage thing in the backyard, and we hung out there. And Ron Mosier. I shouldn't give last names if they're still alive, but it was this group of friends. There were straights, there were gays, there were goths, there were a couple deadheads had found their way. But the thing was, we were all a motley group of misfits. There was Terry Hall, there was black gay Terry Hall, there was lesbian libertarian Bonnie, and we were a motley group of misfits who didn't like the boring humdrum normality of our milieu. And we got together and we helped each other. We learned so much from each other. Matt Potter was the guy who taught me that it was okay to be weird. I wouldn't be doing the type of comedy had not my friend Matt Potter, Snagga, and we would waste time just making weird words, Bonnie and I, we encouraged each other's love for classical music. We had fun together. And I thought of them the night that I did that show, that's the video before this one, as I was playing the keyboards, and I thought about how proud they would have been of me. Because we fought these fucks. I'm not gonna do Jordan Peterson. We fought these fucks in our own little small town way. And I will always have this Missouri thing in me that rejects snobbery. And when you sit around like that pig, Claire Fox, and in your own academic fucking wankery, you think it's important to debate child porn, you fucking pig. We working class people, just like the rest of civilized society, settled that debate fucking ages ago. You fucking academic pig. And all you little mischievous elves that stand for nothing. We fought you fucks. We fought you fucks in our own little way. And my early comedic characters were those people. Those bigots and the street preachers who'd be, yo, you're going to hell, whore, Jezebel. We took care of them. Well, we thought we did. We mocked them. We teased them in the street, whatever. That was our little punk rock thing. And then I went out to San Francisco and I said, well, fuck you people. You got a bit of snobbery about yourself. What makes you so better? You got your own fucking bigotries. And then you come and then you see so much of that when you're in the city and when you're in the arts. I found myself both in education and the arts. And I saw a lot of liberal bullshit. We can't teach these authors. All that censorous shit. I saw it and it drove me fucking nuts. And I thought, does anybody believe in education? Does anybody believe in art anymore? And you do. You make the mistake that you think those original people are dead, and you don't deal with them anymore because you don't live in the But I never saw the point of satire where all your enemies are out there. It's like, that's a real pussy move. If your enemies are always out there, that just means you're a pussy. Keep it out there because he could hit you. If Toby Young had any balls, he could have hit me, but he doesn't have any balls. And you think that this stuff is done, and you go, no, you're just like, you wear suits and you go to think tanks and you debate and you watch Stefan Molyneux and you debate about whether there's a genetic, you're like, there's some fucking pig, let me comment on it. Big man. You're such a big, brave man with your theories on intelligence. What'd you call yourself? Anthropological? Big man. Oh, you're so brave. Is that your real name? You anonymous fucking pussy. What a pussy you are. What a little man. I thought of that quote, Michael Savage, the radio talk show host. I thought of that. He said something really funny one time to some guy that was giving him shit on the air. He says, "You're not talking to your weak father here. You're not talking to your weak father here. You little pussy. You're a big man. What's your fucking name, big man? Or were you named anthropological?" You watch all these little fucking videos and you go, oh my God, you're not the people that spat tobacco and had your little jokes and you bring back slavery. Well, you're not those people. You're the people that go to think tanks and don't have any opinions about anything. And you've always got a get out of jail free card, don't you? It's not me, it's a character. It's not me. I don't stand for anything. I'm the midnight elf that says and disappears. And I do it all on Twitter. And I was banking on your stupidity. You see, because even though I've been to Oxford, even though I've been to one of the greatest universities in the world, I was privileged enough to attend there. Privileged, not me, I'm talking about them. Even though I had all this privilege and I was able to attend Oxford, all this education at my disposal, something that should have hammered home some belief or some gratitude for how lucky you were. But you cynical, nihilistic, unprincipled Philistine, of which this lot are, you banked on the stupidity of the present age. And you invented a Twitter character, and the Spectator puffed you up and said brilliant, and you wrote a book, and you made some money off of it. Because you banked on the stupidity of people. You banked on the low expectations. And you denigrate the word satire, and you denigrate the word journalism, and you denigrate art, and you denigrate education, and you denigrate race relations, and you denigrate class relations, because you're fucking hollow men. You're T.S. Eliot's hollow men. And you scare the fuck out of me. And I get angry at you because you scare the fuck out of me, because people who have no principles scare me more than the right or the left. You stand for nothing, which means you'll stand for anything. That's not my quote. That's somebody else's quote, isn't it? I forget who, but thank you very much to you all. I hope you enjoyed this, and keep your eyes open, man. And let's not retard the debate any further. Let's not have a debate. We don't need the debate. These people are in. Actually, I'll close with a Milton quote. Since I am doing Milton, let's see if I can find this from chapter 2. When this comes out in 10 months, I've used all sort of creative sound effects for hell and for heaven. I'm in heaven right now, and just worked on some the Rising Old which was Heard of Thunder, Heard Remote. Okay, here it is. In book 2 of Paradise Lost, and we'll close with this. And by the way, if you want to support me, Comedy Unleashed isn't anymore. They've been so good to me. If I would have just shut my mouth about what I thought about eugenics, I've been home free, kiddo. But in Book 2 of Paradise Lost, that's where they have a debate in hell. I mean, I saw that as like the battle of ideas. Like all these little demons get together. Should we fight against heaven? Should we not fight against heaven? Should we do this? Should we do that? Right? I thought, here's Claire Fox is like Satan. You know, they're having a little endless debate, right? And where's my glasses? Hold on a second. I need glasses now, which I've always wanted to wear glasses because I think I look like Peter Sellers sometimes, if I may say so myself. So if you haven't read Book 2 of Paradise Lost, they decide in hell, in pandemonium, that somebody should go to Earth and try to fuck up mankind to get back at God. That's the best way to do it. So Beelzebub, Satan's second in command, comes out and says, who should we send? Who should do this? I'm very proud of this. I think it's some of the finest acting I've done, if I may say so myself. Who should we send? And of course Satan volunteers. He says, look, if I'm going to be king of hell, it's down to me, man. And nobody, and even says, this enterprise none shall take with me. In other words, I'm going alone. You know, I want the glory. I want the glory for fucking all this shit up. And I can be the king of hell. Now, Milton has a lot of humor here. And when Satan takes off and they've decided that Satan's going to go to Earth, the rest of the demons and the devils in hell have to find ways to kill time. Right? Until Satan gets back and, you know, it's good, rock and roll, we fucked up mankind. And one of the funniest parts I found is that he describes all these demons going off into their various places. Some sing songs. You know, they pull out harps and their own heroic deeds and hapless falls sing about by doom of battle. In other words, poor us. Let's sing a little love song to ourselves about how brave we were to stand up to God. But for this part, what I did was I took clips of Sarah Pascoe, just random, Sarah Pascoe, Andrew Doyle, Claire Fox, I think is in there, Ella Whelan from Spiked, just anybody who just babbles on and debates, blah, 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 blah. And I linked them all together because what Milton is talking about here is people who debate and think that they're smarter than everybody else and talk snobbishly about what should be done, right? Endless debate. Claire Fox, Battle of Ideas. So I'll read this. So he's talking about, so as one group of devils is playing the song, he says, in discourse more sweet, for eloquence the soul, song charms the sense, others apart sat on a hill retired, a hill of hell, a hill in hell, in thoughts more elevate, and reasoned high of providence, foreknowledge, will, and fate, fixed fate, free will, foreknowledge absolute, and found no end in wandering mazes lost. Of good and evil much they argued then, of happiness and final misery, passion and apathy, and glory and shame, vain wisdom all, and false philosophy. Yet with a pleasing sorcery could charm pain for a while, or anguish, and excite fallacious hope, or arm the obdurate breast with stubborn patience, as with triple still. In other words, one of the things I told Andrew Doyle last night, you know, it was in the quiet of the night when you're all alone with your thoughts, and if you believe in it, your soul, you have to ask yourself, do I believe in anything? Because that shuts the door on all this endless fucking debate that goes nowhere in the name of free speech, anti-woke. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been a wonderful audience. I'm sorry you guys weren't laughing too loud. I should have turned the microphone on. I can't hear anybody laughing out there tonight. But yeah, next week we're going to have Coronavirus and Joseph Mengele at the Comedy Club Unleashed. And be watching for more Nazis. Love you. Bye.